trying to find a way out of this war. If you hit electricity, we hit electricity.
All right, Shalom Israel. First and foremost, as always, I would like to give all praises, honor, glory, respect, and blessings to Yahweh, Bahasham, Yahweh Shai, Bahasham, Rakhaha, Quadash. Salutations to the Lord's elect on the four corners of the earth, pushing his truth and sincerity while patiently waiting for Yahweh Shai's return, and double honors to our apostles and elders of Great Millstone, which have taught us everything we know through the spirit and power of Yahweh Bahasham, Yahweh Shai. This is a live video, which is going into the title of this video is called Boom. Okay, the imposters erupting as Iran's furious revenge missiles hit power plants, with a question mark.
The lights that went out in Tel Aviv's suburbs were Iran's opening demonstration of what that promise looks like in practice, whether Israel and the United States decide the exchange.
So, in other words, chaos is erupting in the land of Israel. Now, we know that according to Isaiah, the 2nd chapter, that when the true biblical Israelites return to the land of Israel, none of this type of stuff is going to be happening. There ain't going to be no rallies. There ain't going to be no protests. There ain't going to be no ambulances. There ain't going to be no confusion. Ain't going to be no dead people. Ain't nobody going to be dying. Ain't going to be no civil war, civil unrest. Ain't nobody going to be afraid to live in cities. None of that, man. It tells you that the whole city shall be at rest, shall be at peace, and nations shall not learn war anymore. What Iran just did was an act of war, which goes to show you that these people in the land of Israel today are not the real JOOs. They are not the real JEWs, period.
Is worth continuing is the question that the next phase of negotiations and the next wave of missiles will answer.
इजराइल का हाल देखो दोस्तों, क्या हो गया इजराइल के अंदर। अल्लाह ताला इजराइल को बर्बाद करना, इजराइल को बर्बाद।
और बहुत बड़ी बहुत बड़ी आग लगी है, बिल्डिंग वगैरह बहुत ज्यादा।
And just real quick, I'm going to come back to that video, but I got a precept real quick. Because in the book of Psalms, chapter 7, verse 11, it tells you that Yahweh is angry with the wicked every day. Ezekiel, and you know, this is one of my most favorite scriptures that I love to bring out, because it describes who's in the land of Israel today. Okay, let's start at verse 3. Ezekiel 36 and 3. Therefore prophesy and, well, hold on, let me see. Okay, this is Ezekiel. Let's just start at 6 first. Let's start at verse 1 first. Ezekiel 36 and 1. Also, thou son of man, prophesy unto the mountains of Israel, and say, ye mountains of Israel, hear the word of Yahweh. Okay? Which can only be heard by his prophets. Thus saith Yahweh, our God, okay? Our awesome, almighty, and precious God, right? Because the enemy have said against you, aha! Even the ancient high places are ours in possession. And the ancient high places are what? Well, that's the land of Israel. Okay? Therefore, prophesy and say, thus saith Yahweh, our God, because they have made you desolate and swallowed you up on every side. And the true biblical Israelites, which are the Negro, Latino, and Native Indians, are desolate. We are desolate. Okay. We're the only nation of people that do not have we're the only nation of people that do not have our own military. When we tried to set up our own economy, our own educational system, when we try to set up our own thing in Tulsa, Oklahoma, what happened? The biblical Edomites, which is the self-proclaimed white man, okay, basically came and bombed our cities, basically making Tulsa, Oklahoma a desolation. So pretty much, that got brought to ruins, and pretty much we got scattered if we weren't put to death. Okay. So basically, we're the only nation of people on the planet that does not have our own military. We don't have our own economy. We don't have our own country. We don't have. We basically do not own anything in this society. Okay, we do not have our own financial system. So pretty much, our enemies have made us desolate on every side. And furthermore, what did the Lord say in the book of Deuteronomy, the 28th chapter? Did not the Lord say that thou shalt have no might in thine hands? Well, a part of having might in our hands is having our own military, okay? Having our own enforcement system, having our own judicial system to execute judgment according to the crimes that have been committed against the laws of the Holy Scriptures. Okay, you see, so we're completely desolate, man. We don't have our own country anymore. We don't even own a house. So we have nothing. We don't have our own economy. We have nothing, man. We have been made desolate and have been swallowed up on every side, that ye might be a possession unto the residue of the heathen. And we have been made a possession. Okay? You go to these third world countries, right? You look at places like Dubai, you look at India, you see a lot of these East Indians, they living out on the streets. They don't even have a pot to piss in. Okay, for the most part, a lot of them are actually Israelites that look like East Indians, okay? They are known as the outcast of Israel. Same thing with these Arabian countries. You got Israelites living out on the streets, sleeping in wooden cabins with no electricity, no heat, no insulation, no security, nothing, man. For the most part, a lot of them are Israelites that look like Arabians. Okay, you go to like China, like Shanghai, China. You go to Japan. A lot of our people are living in the slums. You watch that movie Kung Fu Hustle. It gives you a good idea of how the Israelites are living. Okay, the Israelites that look like Chinese people. Watch that movie Kung Fu Hustle. Yeah, it's one of my most favorite movies because I've always been a huge fan of Kung Fu movies. But you look at Kung Fu Hustle, right? All them Israelites, they don't even own an apartment, They basically live in basically one big ass room, and they have like a slumlord to watch over them all. That's how a lot of our people are living in China that look like Chinese people. They're known as the outcast of Israel. Same thing with Japan. Same thing in Japan. They're living. I forgot what it was called, but it's a super cheap apartment, but it's literally the size of a hallway. You barely got any room, to basically do anything. Your room is the size of a small ass hallway. And basically your bathroom is in the same room as your room. You don't even got a kitchen. For the most part, those are our people, Israelites, that look like Japanese people living in those bad conditions. You go down to Africa, our people's living out in the wilderness, you know. They got to worry about getting eaten alive by dangerous animals. Those are a lot of those, some of those, especially down in places like Nigeria, Libya, the coast of Libya, the western parts of Africa. A lot of our people, when they fled from Jerusalem in 70 AD, they migrated to the western parts of Africa, which is why during the Renaissance period, transitioning from the Dark Ages, right? When the Edomites were the biblical Edomites, which is the self-proclaimed white man, when they was rising up into power, right? They knew to go to the western parts of Africa because that's where our people migrated to after fleeing we had to flee out of our homeland, which is the land of Israel. Okay? Because even Yahushua said it in the book of Luke, the 21st chapter. Then let them which be in Judea, which Judea, I believe, is the Greek way of saying Judah, right? Let them flee to the mountains, which the mountains was a dark saying for Africa, okay? And our people ended up migrating to the western parts of Africa. Okay? So amongst all these nations, we have been made a desolation, man. No matter where you look, our people are outcast. Even here in America, we're an outcast, okay? We're living in the ghettos, the slums, the reservations. We're living in the projects, but being stacked up like sardines, living in the worst parts of the earth because we're under the curses of Deuteronomy. The true biblical Israelites will be under the curses of Deuteronomy, the 28th chapter and the 15th verse on down in the last days, under Esau, Edom's rulership. Meanwhile, the Bible also prophesied that there will be imposters. The Holy Scriptures prophesied that there would be imposters in the land of Israel who would claim to be us, and they're not. They're Edomites. But they're Amalekites. But Amalek is a descendant of Esau, and anybody who is a descendant of Esau is an Edomite. So those are Edomites in the land of Israel, calling themselves Jewish, and they are not Jewish. They are Edomites. So therefore prophesy and say, thus saith Yahweh, because they have made you desolate and swallowed you up on every side, that ye might be a possession unto the residue of the heathen. And we have been made a possession unto the residue of the heathen. Okay? No matter where you go, our people is only serving to keep the economies of these different countries running. Even Dubai, our people is being used to keep those economies running. So we have been made a residue. We have been made a possession unto the residue of the heathen, and ye are taken up in the lips of talkers, right? Every nation on the planet want to talk shit about us, right? But then at the same time, they want to be us, and are in infamy. And infamy is short for infamous. A person who's infamous is a person who's known by a lot of people in a bad way. Okay, and are an infamy of the people, right? Well, the Lord said that the curses of Deuteronomy, the 28th chapter and the 15th verse on down, will be for a sign and a wonder upon our nation until Yahushua come back. Well, it didn't say until Yahushua come back, right? But it said that the curses of Deuteronomy 28 verse 15 on down to 68 will be a sign and a wonder for us, right? Upon our nation. So we are taken up in the lips of talk. We are taken up in the lips of talkers and are in infamy of the people. Therefore, ye mountains of Israel, hear the word of Yahweh. Thus saith Yahweh, our God, to the mountains and to the hills and to the rivers and to the valleys. Okay. To the desolate wastes and to the cities that are forsaken, which became a prey and a derision to the residue of the heathen that are round about. Therefore, thus saith Yahweh, surely in the fire of my jealousy have I spoken against the residue of the heathen and against all Idumea. Idumea is the Greek way of saying Edom. And who are the biblical Edomites? The self-proclaimed white man. especially those imposters over there in the land of Israel, calling themselves Jewish, and they are not Jewish. Ultimately, they are Edomites, even though their line goes back to Amalek, right? Which makes them Amalekites. But guess what? Amalek was a descendant of Esau, which makes them Edomites. So therefore in the fire of my jealousy have I spoken against the residue of the heathen and against all Idumea, which have appointed my land into their possession. What is the Lord's land? What is the Heavenly Father's land? That would be the land of Israel, which have appointed my land. So therefore, therefore, thus saith Yahweh, surely have I spoken in the fire of my jealousy. Therefore, in the fire of my jealousy have I spoken against the residue of the... Let me read that again. Ezekiel 36:5. Therefore, thus saith Yahweh, our God, surely in the fire of my jealousy have I spoken against the residue of the heathen and against all Idumea, which have appointed my land, the land of Israel, into their possession, with the joy of all their heart, which the word heart goes back to the Hebrew word lav, which means your mind, with all their mind, with despiteful minds, to cast it out for a prey. So there you go. Who's in the land of Israel right now? Idumeans. And that's why, this is why you see all manner of chaos, hell breaking loose over there in the land of Israel, because there's people over there in the land of Israel that do not belong over there. The land of Israel belongs to the Israelites, which are the Negro, Latino, and Native Indians. Those are the true biblical Israelites, not just according to the Holy Scriptures, but also according to biblical prophecy. Okay, so the Negro, Latino, and Native Indians are the biblical Israelites. And right now, we are not in the land of Israel. Now, you got some Israelites whose line goes back to Negro, Latino, and Native Indians who are in the land of Israel. That's a possibility. But guess what? We're not in that time to go back to the land of Israel. The true biblical Israelites are going to go back to the land of Israel when the Messiah returns. And the Messiah, whose name is Yahweh, when he returns, he's coming back in what the world calls a UFO. And he's going to deliver his elect men from the four corners of the earth where they have been scattered, according to Isaiah 11, verse 11. Okay, because by that point, by that time, the Heavenly Father is going to use the land of Israel to destroy. The Lord is going to use Iran to destroy the land of Israel. Bring that destroy the rats out of that land, because they don't belong there. And then when the fire and smoke goes out, then the true biblical Israelites will return to that land where I hope I'm of the elect. The Yahweh and his elect are gonna put you heathens and all of you Edomites into slavery, and Yahweh are going to rebuild up our kingdom with gold, platinum, silver, and precious stones. So as it stands, the true biblical Israelites are not in the land of Israel, ruling in that land. And that's why you got all kinds of chaos, death going on. You got all kind of civil wars, civil unrest. People are in panic. They don't know if they're coming or going, because the people that are in the land of Israel today are heathens. And yes, Edomites are heathens. They are the top heathens on this planet ruling the earth today. And that's why the Lord is causing holy hell to break loose in the land of Israel, which is his land, which the Idumeans have appointed into their possession.
Parts of Tel Aviv when dark, not from a power cut caused by maintenance or bad weather, but from Iranian ballistic missiles hitting Israel's electricity infrastructure in what the IRGC described as a deliberate campaign to cripple the country's energy supply. The primary target was the Orot Rabin power station in Hadera, roughly 45 kilometers north of Tel Aviv, a coastal facility that supplies around 20% of Israel's total electricity. Iranian state media cited the military as saying that all power plants, energy infrastructure, and communications technology of the Zionist regime will be widely targeted. Israel's Electric Corporation said no damage was caused to its infrastructure in that specific attack, but the missile that arrived near the facility was close enough, and the intent behind it was clear enough, that the threat could no longer be dismissed as rhetoric. Iran had been warning this moment was coming for days. Its parliament speaker, Mohammad Bagher Ghalibaf, posted publicly that if Iran's own power plants were targeted, vital infrastructure across the entire region would be considered legitimate targets and would be irreversibly destroyed. The IRGC was even more direct, issuing a statement that said simply, "If you hit electricity, we hit electricity." What followed was not just a warning. Iran began systematically following through on it, firing ballistic missiles at Israeli power stations, while simultaneously launching strikes on energy infrastructure across the Gulf, hitting oil refineries in Kuwait and Saudi Arabia, attacking desalination facilities, and threatening to mine the entire Persian Gulf if operations against Iranian territory continue to escalate. The exchange of energy strikes that has developed over the past week represents the most economically dangerous escalation of Operation Epic Fury since the war began on February 28th. Israel and the United States had already struck Iran's South Pars gas field, the largest natural gas facility on Earth, in a move that Iranian President Masoud Pezeshkian warned could produce consequences that might engulf the entire world. They had hit fuel depots and oil storage sites in Tehran and the Alborz province. Iran's response was to go after the infrastructure that keeps Israeli cities running, targeting.
How did you not know about this? You still auto-renewing your car insurance? Stop doing that in 2026. Use this site. I'm going to send you and all the viewers the link. It runs your info through an...
The Orot Rabin station's coastal location makes it easy to reach from the sea and from Iranian missile trajectories flying over the eastern Mediterranean. Its capacity of 2,590 megawatts makes a successful strike on it a potential crisis for millions of people. The targeting logic behind Iran's power plant campaign is not complicated. Iran is doing to Israel systematically and deliberately precisely what Israel and the United States have been doing to Iran. Israel has dropped more than 15,000 bombs across Iran since February 28th, more than 4 times the number used in the 12-day war of June.
And you know why they've dropped more than 15,000 bombs? It tells you in the book of Second Thessalonians, the 2nd chapter, okay? That this dude, these Edomites are known as the son of perdition, okay? They don't care about life. They only care about bringing destruction. Okay? 2nd Esdras, chapter 2, verse 2. That ye be not soon shaken in mind or troubled, neither by spirit, nor by word, nor by letter, as as from us, as that the day of Yahushua is at hand. Okay? And the day of Yahushua is at hand. Okay? What did Yahushua tell his disciples? When you see these things come to pass, then lift up your head, and lo, for your redemption draweth nigh. So we're seeing all kinds of wars, mournings, death, destructions taking place all around the world. So we know that that time is drawing nigh. Let no man deceive you by any means, for that day shall not come except there come a falling away first, and that man of sin be revealed, the son of perdition. Okay, and who's that man of sin? Okay, let's read verse 4. Who opposeth and exalteth himself above all that is called God. And who's doing that on this planet? The Edomites are. Okay, or that is worship, so that he as God sitteth in the temple of God, showing himself that he is God. Remember ye not that when I was yet with you, I told you these things? And now ye know what withholdeth, that he might be revealed in his time. For the mystery of iniquity doth already work. Only he who now letteth will let till he be taken out of the way. And then shall that wicked be revealed, whom the Lord shall consume with the spirit of his mouth, which are his prophets, and shall destroy with the brightness of his coming. Because when Yahushua returns, he's coming back to wage war on the heathen, especially the top heathen on the planet, which are the Edomites. Okay, even him whose coming is after the working of Satan, with all power and signs and lying wonders. So there you go. Okay. And when you go into that word perdition, what does it mean? It means destruction. Okay. So this Esau is the man of destruction. And that's why you see all manner of, that's why you're hearing about 15,000 bombs being dropped on a fucking country. Because Esau is the man of destruction, aka the man of perdition.
Used in the 12-day war of June 2025. It has hit nuclear sites, missile factories, naval facilities, and leadership compounds. It has been targeting the institutions, leaders, and infrastructure that make Iran function, with the stated goal of making civilian life uncomfortable enough to produce internal pressure on the government. Iran has studied that playbook carefully and is now running it in reverse, aiming not at military hardware, but at the lights, the fuel, and the water. The desalination angle is the one that carries the most alarming implications for the wider region. Iran's semi-official Fars news agency, citing military sources, published a list of energy and desalination facilities across the Gulf that Iran considers legitimate targets, with the UAE's nuclear power plant among them. In desert nations like the UAE, Qatar, Kuwait, and Saudi Arabia, desalination plants are not peripheral infrastructure. They are what keeps the population alive. Knocking them out does not just raise energy prices. It threatens the water supply of tens of millions of people. Iran's parliament speaker said the retaliation for any strike on Iranian power plants would include those facilities, and the IEGC later appeared to walk back the desalination threat specifically, with a statement accusing Trump of lying about Iran's intentions toward water infrastructure. But the threat had already been made publicly, and the target list had already been published. Trump had threatened to obliterate Iran's power plants if Tehran did not reopen the Strait of Hormuz within 48 hours. Iran's response was to promise that destroying Iranian power plants would trigger the destruction of every equivalent facility across the region, and to publish the list of what that meant. Trump then extended his deadline by 5 days. Iranian state television declared he had backed down following Iran's firm warning. The IRGC said it was determined to respond to any threat at precisely the same level. The war, which had begun as a campaign to eliminate Iran's nuclear and missile programs, had arrived at a point where both sides were threatening each other's civilian electricity supply, with the lights going out in Tel Aviv suburbs as a preview of what an unrestrained exchange between the two sides would actually produce. Israel has since authorized calling up 400,000 additional military reservists. Its defense minister confirmed that a new series of strike targets in both Iran and Lebanon had been approved. The IDF said it had destroyed Iran's only facility for developing submarines, located in Isfahan, and Iran, for its part, confirmed receipt of a US peace proposal through intermediaries with Turkey and Pakistan, both mentioned as possible venues for negotiations. Senior Iranian officials said the proposal was being studied. The missiles kept flying while it was being studied, striking Israeli cities, Gulf refineries, and airport fuel depots, all of it running on a logic that both sides understand and neither has yet been willing to break. The IIGC put its position in 5 words that cut through every diplomatic statement issued by every intermediary trying to find a way out of this war. If you hit electricity, we hit electricity. The lights that went out in Tel Aviv's suburbs were Iran's opening demonstration of what that promise looks like in practice. Whether Israel and the United States decide the exchange is worth continuing is the question that the next phase of negotiations and the next wave of missiles will answer.
Wow! Wow!
इजराइल का हाल देखो दोस्तों क्या हो गया इजराइल के अंदर
With that, I'm going to say Shalom. Is on to the next one.